I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is when they go and they overproject what their profit's going to be. You got to look at your comps in that area, and you also have to be realistic of what you're going to be able to sell that property and what it's going to be able to be listed at.
This episode brought to you by Suites at Madison. Meeting and conference rooms for rent by the hour, week, month, or year. Suites at Madison, where business gets done. Check them out at www.downtowntampaoffice.com. Now, on to the show.
You are listening to the Invest Florida Real Estate Show, covering topics in lending, buy and sell strategies, property management, hot markets, and tips and tools to guide you along the way on your path to real estate success. You want Florida investment real estate talk? You have come to the right place. And now, our hosts, Eric Odum and Steven Silverman.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Invest Florida Real Estate Show. This is your co-host, Eric Odum, along with Steven Silverman. Steven, what's the good word?
Well, it's interesting. We're out in the market. We're real estate brokers, and definitely, activity. The streets aren't crowded. There's no traffic, but we haven't really seen prices drop. And it's just a wait and see situation until everybody adjusts to understand what we learned from this COVID.
Well, I mean, and this is a repetitive theme throughout multiple episodes. This is a false market right now. Yes, the laws are of no eviction and foreclosure for the residential side, but for all practical purposes, the commercial side is also locked up, and it's not really moving. So it's creating a bit of a false market. We've talked about it. We talked about it a couple episodes ago that believe that the office market was going to be the worst. It certainly is the slowest, but I'll tell you that, Stephen, I did a 7,500 square foot office lease the end of last month. I'm in the process of doing a fairly large office space, right around 10,000 feet in downtown Tampa. I mean, deals are still getting done, just not getting done at the rate that they were doing before. And there's not as much activity, but there's still things happening, right? I'm actually trying to buy another investment property. I'm looking over in Pinellas County, and we're going to talk about this a little bit when we get into it with our next guest, but the market in the residential side is insane. There's so few properties for the same amount of buyers that are out there searching. And this gets back to what would normally be happening is that there'd be a normal flow. Forget about COVID. There would be a normal flow of foreclosure and evictions that happen, people moving out, moving on, passing away, et cetera. And it's just not there. So you have the same pool of buyers with a decreased supply of property and investment. So it's tough right now. I mean, I think I haven't stopped looking, but it's frustrating because I can't find deals. It's a 10% appreciation in the neighborhoods that I'm looking at just since the beginning of March.
Prices have not dropped, and it's because it's artificial.
Yeah.
And from a brokerage side, from what I've seen, the buyers that are out there are more serious, and deals are getting done really in all categories. I'm seeing them in Class A. I'm seeing them in for instance, Class A office and also suburban office. They're still happening, just slower, but more serious buyers.
Yeah. I mean, it's surprising. You get folks that pop up. The industrial has always been hotter than a pistol. But if you're doing certain types of office business, you still need to have people in the office. It's just they're looking for more closed doors and more separation and being able to get away from each other. But life goes on. I mean, we can't. And as much as we'd like things to be normal, they're not. But people can't shelter in place for the rest of their lives. I mean, the world still has to turn. And so people are trying to do the best they can to protect themselves and protect their employees and protect their coworkers and whatnot. And so we're seeing a lot of that discussion. And but deals are continuing to happen. Stephen, we wanted to remind folks that if they've not done so already, to please go to either the iTunes store or the Google Play Store and leave us a review. As you know, we ask for this every week. it is a challenge for us to find guests that want to invest time with us, really invest time with you and provide you with information that can help you advance in your real estate career.
At the same time, if any guests listening think of or know somebody who think that we could all benefit from listening to, please let us know. This is really for all our benefit and our education.
But it's helpful for you if you go on the iTunes store and the Play Store to leave us a review, because we have to go through 5 or 6 individuals before we can get one person that will come on. And so when you're leaving reviews and telling potential guests that this is worth their time, they're more apt to want to come on and invest time with you. So if you haven't done so already, please go and leave us a review. And that would be a big help. Stephen, do we have any other housekeeping items before we roll on with our guest?
I think our housekeeping's done. Let's roll into Byron. Today we have with us Byron Fisher, the owner of BT Realty Services. Byron started his business in 2012. He spent the first 4 years buying rentals and flipping residential properties. In 2016, he started doing hard money loans, focused mainly on the rehab loan. He has sold several $1 million in properties and actively maintains a portfolio of properties and loans. Byron, welcome to the Invest Florida show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Hey, Byron, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. Why don't you give us a 30,000-foot view of how you got down this path in real estate?
Well, it's kind of interesting. What happened was I was living in California, and I had a couple of properties there that I was renting out. And one of my friends in Florida called me up. He had lost his job, and he was worried that he was going to be homeless. So I talked to him about the different rentals there, and he explained to me that Florida had a lot of foreclosures. So I flew down. I bought a condo and in Tampa. I renovated it, fixed it up, moved him in. That was my first rental, and that was my first taste of the Florida market for the flips and the rental properties. And after that, I went back to Cali. I sold my properties, which, Cali's ridiculous. San Francisco was at like $1,000 a square foot. I was in Oakland. We were closer to like 700. So I was able to start off my business with using my own money, not having to go to a hard money loan company.
Now, at that time, you were holding, correct?
Yeah. So what happened was when I was in Cali, I was an IT director for the county of Alameda. So I wasn't even in the real estate game at all, besides my 2 rentals that I had close to where I lived at.
Gotcha.
So the investments that you bought in Tampa, were they all in Tampa or the surrounding area?
Right. So what I first started off was I'd moved away from Tampa for so long. I didn't know all the neighborhoods, but I knew at least once I bought the one property in a condo community, I was able to buy 4 more properties in that same condo community. And it's a very well sought after one close to the airport. But I bought them. Then I started looking into houses. And, so I had started almost throughout anywhere in Tampa. I got a hold of a couple really good realtors, and we are as far out as New Tampa, and just started buying them. I'd sit the first year I had over 20 properties that I had purchased, and then I just kept on buying more and more.
And were you holding them and renting them out, or were you flipping them?
So basically, I was doing a combination. Properties that I knew that I could flip, houses that I picked up at a really good price that I knew that neighborhood could sustain a huge increase. Those are the ones and those were actually the beginner homes in the villas that they have throughout Tampa. So I started buying them. The condos, I think most people might know or don't know that the condos back, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they were going for almost dirt cheap. I was picking up condos for $50,000 and $60,000 that later on, 2 to 3 years later, I was selling for $150,000. Well, $150,000.
So that's really the advantage of coming in from the outside. Sometimes people in the market have a difficult time seeing the woods from the trees, but looking at it from the outside and with California perspective, to you, it was represented a bargain.
Right, correct. And then especially as it grew, the more and more that as I got involved, a lot of other flippers were getting involved also. And so then, obviously you have to start thinking of different ways to continue doing your business. And what I found was condos and townhouses were the main one, were great for me. Most people would consider trying to pick up a property. And, back in those days, you could make quite a bit of money on the properties. But, as the years went on and you had more people bidding, your profits started to drop. Most other flippers I knew, if they were making $30,000-$40,000 a flip, they were doing good just because there was so much competition. So I started realizing that with condos and townhouses, I can buy them. I could sit on them for a while, which saves you a lot in regards to your capital gains, and rent them out. And then 2 or 3 years later, as I sell them, the market has already grown because not everybody's going to buy a house. A lot of people still bought condos and townhouses as long as the HOAs were reasonable,
Yeah, I mean, I bought one of those myself. I'm living in a condo, and it seemed like none of the investors wanted them back in the earlier part of this decade. They're like, no, we single family homes. And I mean, I bought a couple of them and did pretty well on them. It just depends on the condo association, right?
Exactly. And the main key is if you get in there, I've got several, probably like 5 or 6 communities that I work with extensively, and I bought quite a few properties from them. But if you get it, once you're in there and they realize that you're going to bring the value of their properties up, they start working with you. So like past due assessments, I work with some of the communities that we just came to a certain dollar amount, and most of them were maybe $5,000 or $10,000 versus having to pay back that assessment of $20,000 and $30,000 because as soon as people started getting foreclosed on, they stopped association fees, everything. And a lot of those properties sat around, with people in them for 2, 3, 4 years. So, you can rate your association fee could go up higher and higher, and, your debt becomes higher. And when you buy that property, you're responsible for that debt. So I learned early how to go to the HOA meetings, talk with them, help them understand that, if you want your values to go up, you're going to have to allow investors to come in.
I suppose that you're using debt now to acquire your properties, the ones that you're holding, right?
Right. So basically, the ones that I hold, I've accumulated enough monies throughout the years that now I don't have to flip 10 houses a year. I can actually flip 5 houses easy, make real good money, and be selective of what I flip. But also, that's why I moved in 2016. I started to do the money loans because all the big lenders, I had already started doing it, but I started noticing that the big lenders started dropping their the rate. So, they were allowing you to buy them at 10% and 12%. Now, my rental, when I do a rehab loan, they're 60 to 90 days, and they're only on the rehab, and I'm a flat fee of 20%. And I have several flippers out there that they use me constantly. So I have them every 90 days. They're coming to me for some more money and more money. So it works out really good to let your money finally work for you instead of you really working hard for your money.
Now, most of your properties, listen, I mean, the market's changed. The whole COVID situation. I mean,
yes.
We're all tired of talking about it. I wish I didn't have to talk about it anymore. I'm sick of it. But people want to know what's going on. They want to know how you're dealing with it. And certainly, I mean, I'm sure it's affecting you on the rental payment side, and it's also affecting you on the acquisition side. So how are you dealing with both?
I can tell you one thing is all my renters, they have all still paid. Most of my renters that I acquired, they've been due diligent. And I thank God that I haven't had the challenges that some people have with their renters not having the money. But in regards to just the environment period, now that we have this going on, the courts are shut. So
yeah.
Now you're The auctions that I love to hit is the county auctions. Love them. Just because there's so much out there, and you can, and a lot of times the banks will already set up, give you a certain amount of money that they wanted for that property. So you can make money. I was able to make quite a bit of dollars on that market. But with the foreclosures being stopped, and now it seems to me that the banks on top of it, now the banks are requiring their foreclosures. They're selling them for like 50, 60, almost 70% of market. So by the time you even get in, your margin of profit is already reduced. But I've been blessed to where I've acquired enough monies and properties that I don't have to worry about that getting a hard money loan. So that saves me 10% right there. And then on top of that, I've learned that you got to let other people make their money. There's other people out there, other flippers out there. They actually live off of this. They don't have any other incomes coming in. So I've learned not to be part of the system of bidding against each other so that no one makes money.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So the county auctions that you spoke of, and I mean, even that's thin. That's pretty thin right now. But were those things that you attended personally, or did you do it online?
I think they're all online now, aren't they, Byron?
All the county ones are online. I also hit. I definitely have always been a fan of auction.com. I've been a fan of Hubzu, Zoom, you name them. I've been a part of all those online auctions. And some years back, even 2 or 3 years back, oh man, you could just get so many deals. It was perfect. Now you're caught in the challenge of 1, foreclosures, and 2, the banks are being greedy, as all banks normally do.
Mm-hmm. So Hubzu, auction.com, besides the county sites, that's really the only game in town. Is there one that you prefer, the auction.com or Hubzu? I
like Hubzu mainly because of Hubzu and auction.com, they're about equal. And in all actuality, they get, you're going to get a product that's going to already have, there's no liens or nothing on that property. So that saves you a lot sometimes. But right now you have so many people bidding for just to get a chance to pick up a property. And, then you have the bigger investors, and that's been the biggest challenge. I have guys that I lend to not only here in Florida. Now I lend up in the DC area, and I'm lending in Delaware, where my family's from. Gotcha. Just because I had to spread out, with the properties being so small, the opportunities are so little that the smaller flippers, they can't afford the 20%. Yeah. But it works out. It always works out.
And so you've got some, it's just right now, obviously Hubzu and auction.com, pretty much the only games in town. You've got some independent auction houses too and whatnot, but there's a small pool of homes with the same number of folks out there bidding. So have you been able to pick up, obviously the competition is pretty heated. So have you been able to pick up properties recently, or are you pretty much just sitting on the sidelines?
Actually, I got very lucky, and I picked up one. I think it was like last week, and I think the only reason I even got it is because I work with a realtor.
Yep.
So when we go in together, I'm able to get those monies from the auction. So they charge you that 5%.
Yeah.
But they're paying my realtor 2.5%, sometimes 3%. So I'm not getting hit with that first charge on top of my dollar. Right. So I can bid a little higher just because I have that extra money coming in anyways. So it's not like it's going straight out. Actually, it's going out, but I'm getting some back. So that makes it a little better. And, I'm not too worried about having to hit a home run right now.
Yeah.
Right now, to just stay working and to keep from being bored. I've been real blessed to win an auction, but I watch them all the time. And even with the Hubzu, if the bank doesn't want to release it for that dollar, they'll list it 10 times until they find someone that hungry. So you gotta be real patient, and you just gotta look around for those best deals. I think almost everybody's getting phone calls from, we buy cash and things of that nature. You just got to be smart. You got to, get back. If you've done some flips, get back with those realtors. Maybe you run across any of your old people that you worked with, someone might just turn you on to something that hasn't hit the listings yet, know? And I have my realtor always checking the MLS for REOs.
What is your perspective, like looking at it from a 30,000-foot view now? I mean, the situation's changed with all this COVID slowing down. Foreclosures are less, everything's changing. Nobody knows, but where's your gut feeling on where the market's going to go or what opportunities might come up?
I say as soon as they lift the courts to allow foreclosures to come through, we're going to get hit with a lot of property going to come out.
Yeah, I agree.
And the banks are not going to be able to try to manipulate us in regards to how much we want to pay. Now, we're going to still pay, but we're not going to pay as high as we're paying now because they're going to need to get rid of the inventory because they still have a lot more inventory.
Yeah. It's a false market right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like almost anything back in the day when they had the IT crisis, right, at the Y2K. Anybody that was able to get through that time period in 2000, and they stayed in, most of us became very successful afterwards. The ones that couldn't make it through, they left and went on and done something different. That's the same thing's going to happen with this. Mm-hmm. You're going to have people that might not be able to make it through, and it's going to reduce the competition to buy properties. But I say once they lift the foreclosures, they're going to come. And we're going to be able to get back to work, and we're going to be, it's not going to be as great as it was back in the day, but we'll still be able to make really good money and keep people working.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens because I kind of feel like Governor DeSantis is going to continue to push off the foreclosures and the evictions for the near future. It feels like, August 1, it's supposed to be again, right? We're supposed to be back. And it sounds to me like there's rumbling that they're going to push it off until September 1. So I don't know. I mean, what's your thought on that? Are you hearing anything?
Yeah, I feel I agree with you 100%. And that's how, from looking at what our governor's doing and seeing that we still have a lot of people not doing the social distancing. And I mean, there's just a lot of things going on out there in the world we're living in. That's how they look out for those individuals that the government hasn't been able to help out. I mean, they've extended, you have the $600 going to the unemployed people, on people that are on unemployment.
Sure. Well,
it took forever to even get their unemployment. So by the time they got their employment, they were saying, oh, I'm going to pay my rent. But then they get caught up where they're like, hey, I got to live off of this. I can't pay my rent. And some people are not worried about foreclosures. I mean, that's exactly what happened to us a long time ago, right? People decided that, maintaining his house or getting back out there, it was easier just to go to foreclosure. But the one thing that we do got going on is the rental market is high. So anybody that's looking at being foreclosed on, they should be doing their due diligence to pay their mortgage and pay their bills because they don't want to get back out here in this high rental market because the rentals are incredibly high for what they should be.
Yeah, another false market.
And I own quite a few, but I don't rent my properties at market. I rent my properties below market mainly because I remember how it was when I had normal jobs. And if people that rent my properties, I know they can eat and they can sleep comfortably, they're going to pay me on time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So talk to me a little bit about, since you do get involved in the auction markets, particularly the county markets, there can be some additional risks. Forget about whether the building is structurally sound or not. Sometimes you don't get access. Let's just talk about the additional financial risks. Have you run into any additional financial risks? You've been pretty good at protecting yourself in that regard.
I do my homework, and I have a company that I use that does all my title searches. So I know if anything, at least anybody has a lien or anything on that property, I already have that done prior to buying a property, and it's very inexpensive. I'm not paying, a regular title company that huge amount of, $200 or $300 for every pop that I want to look at.
What do they charge you, Byron?
$50.
Charging you 50. Okay. So you'll get it narrowed down to 4 or 5 properties you want to bid on, and you're paying, a couple $100 for the 4 or 5 properties.
To me, it's well worth it.
Got it.
Because it only takes that one time that you buy that property and, you're excited that roof looks beautiful until you get hit with that $20,000 bill.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, Byron, you're out in the market as an investor and you're talking to other investors. What kinds of mistakes do you see people making as they try to build their real estate business?
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is when they go and they overproject what their profit's going to be. You got to look at your comps in that area, and you also have to be realistic of what you're going to be able to sell that property and what it's going to be able to be listed at. And on top of that, you also have to look for discounts as much as possible. Me, I use my bank that I get points, and I also am military, so I'll go to Lowe's for a lot of materials. But I'm always on the search for discounted material because that can save you thousands of dollars on a project.
Now, do you run your own crews or are you out, one mano a mano picking up folks that can do the work for you?
I have 2 different crews that I use here and there. They're all independent guys, so which works out great for me. When I first started in the business, I had 2 solid crews that I kept working, but over time it just became more challenging just with personalities and living in Florida. Let's just make it very clear. You sometimes just don't show up because they live in Florida.
Know where you're going, brother.
Well, that's another issue, which is managing your contractors and timelines and things like that. How do you do that? Do you stay very involved on that?
And then that's another thing that people make mistakes on. You get talked to by a general contractor and he makes you feel like, wow, I'm going to make money and all I have to do is just purchase the property and get them their money for the rehab. And what you'll find out real quick, you're going to get a whole lot of excuses and they're still going to get their check.
Yeah.
So it's not a job that you're just going to make money sitting at home just because you were able to win an auction. You're going to have to show up every day. And I stay involved in all my properties. I even stay involved with my loans. I speak with my customers that are loaning money from me, and I'll sit down and if they tell me they're having problems, I'll help them out as best as I can and give them some advice, because if they're not successful, then it's going to be harder for me to get my money. Nothing personal, but everything to me is business. So I've learned that I'd rather invest my time in helping them become successful versus me sitting there, well, if you mess up, I'll just have to take you to court. That doesn't benefit anyone in the long run.
Right. So talk to us a little bit about the structure of your business. Is it just you or you've got other folks involved, or how does that work for you, Byron?
I've been able to run this by myself. However, I brought in Tammy. She's my realtor. And so now we work together, which when I first got into business, everyone kept on telling me, oh, you should become a realtor, or you're just giving away so much money, blah, blah. And I made it very clear. I said, I've spent 20 years in IT. I am not taking any more tests. I am done with the test taking. I was like, I'd rather give my money to a realtor and trust them to do the right thing. And obviously I'm not the easiest customer. I'm definitely on top of everything, but I got with Tammy and she's been working with me. And so it's worked out really good because now I have someone that has access to MLS, and it's just made things a lot easier. But it's just me. I manage all my all the projects, and I do all the contracts. I have a really good title company that I work with, and they're able to write up really great contracts that definitely benefit me if anything goes wrong.
Tell me a little bit, because you talked about people doing your title search. Is that that's a different company than ones who do your title work for you? Is that a different company that does a title search?
Yep. So what I do is there's a company that I use that I found them online. And basically what they'll do is they'll do all the work that you could do yourself. Yeah. But I don't have the time to go through all those
title searches. Yeah, it's cumbersome.
Especially if you're talking about when the market was crazy. I was looking at 10 houses easy weekly.
Yeah.
Just to go to purchase. And so it was just taking up too much of my time. And I found this one company, and they, for a while, it worked out really, really great. Now I have a little more time. I'm able to do my searches, but those kind of companies that are out there that give you the, so that what you're truly getting into, especially like you said, with these county auctions, most of the time, period, you can't get in. Now, if you are in, you ain't supposed to be there, but it's a site, you just be able to walk up and look at it. If it isn't, you can check out the roof and you can see if it's a block house. If it's a block house, you have a chance that you're not going to run into too much troubles. But if it's a wood house, you have no idea what you're buying into.
Yeah. And it's funny because I bought, a handful myself. We do mostly commercial real estate, but I do some single family home on the side. I've bought, 3 or 4 properties here in the last couple of years. Had some lot splits and whatnot. But it's funny when you do these auctions, and I've bought now 2 properties or 3 properties at auction. But I probably looked at a dozen or more in the last couple of years, and you show up at the house and at one particular time I had county auction, that they're not supposed to be in, no one's supposed to be in there, and then here comes one of my clients, shall we say, coming out the back door. they figured out a way to get in, and they looked at me like they had just been the cat that ate the canary, like, oh, what are you doing here?
I'm not going to say I've done that, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
And shame on them for leaving the door unlocked or a window open.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you just find, like, when you're doing your title searches, you just found a company online, or is there one particular company that you would recommend people use?
To tell you, I just found one online. I haven't used them in a while, so I don't know if they're, especially with all that's going on right now, that if they're still around. But it's not that hard to find them. So
let's talk about we talked about the area. We've talked about, you going and, talking to the neighbors and trying to get some ideas on whether it's what's going on in the neighborhood. And is there any other tips and pointers that you might give folks that are getting started in the business, or how to keep their head above water in this market that we're in?
Well, you have to be realistic about if you're going to be in this game, you have to be realistic. And sometimes, you're going to hit those home runs where you're going to make a lot of money on a flip. But right now, with the inventory like it is, if you have to survive, you have to survive. If you only make 10 or 15 grand on a flip, it might not sound that good. But if you do it right, you can make that 10 or 15 grand in 60 days too. Right. So nothing to sneeze at.
Well, it's a period now where it's an artificial market, like you said. So we've just got to sit back and wait for things to change. So, Byron, if people want to reach you or they have a deal to offer, how can they get hold of you?
Well, they can definitely reach me on my website and my email, and that's BT Realty Services at Outlook.com. BT Realty Services at Outlook.com. Or they can reach out to me and they can call me personally. I'm good with that. And that phone number is 727-642-9552. I'm open to if they have opportunities or if they just have any questions. I'm that kind of guy. I'm good with sharing. I don't feel that this market is something I need to hold so close to myself, or what I've learned over the years. I have to keep it to myself. I want everyone to make money and live good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome mentality. That always comes around the karma, brother. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're looking for so that people would know, so they're not blowing your phone up for, $3 million retail deserted centers down in Miami.
Yeah, I'm still sticking to the bread and butter. I like single family homes. I'm not even too worried about neighborhoods, but single family homes or lately what I've been seeing a lot of people looking at is where, the elderly are moving on, that all of a sudden now these families acquire a property and they don't know what to do with it versus going straight to the realtor. I'll pick those up before the realtor for sure.
And so is there a particular area and price range or you're ambivalent to that?
Our properties don't ever go over $500,000. So anything under a half, we're interested.
Awesome. Stephen, anything else before we let Byron go?
No, Byron, we just keep us posted on how you're doing as the market changes and where it's going. But thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much. And I appreciate y'all reaching out to me. And I look forward to, if anyone finds some deals or they need some help, give me a call. I'll be available.
Appreciate it, Byron. And that was Byron Fisher, owner of BT Realty Services here in the Tampa Bay area. Stephen, love talking to Byron. What were your thoughts about him?
So it was interesting hearing what Byron had to say. You know, we're brokers, we're out in the market, we're doing things, and frankly, we haven't seen that big a deal of a change in prices and valuations. And, you know, the conversation spoke about us being in an artificial market, and it's a strategy for now. We're reacting to COVID and all the implications, but we have to be ready for what may be coming down the pike. It could be a different scenario.
Well, Byron's another guy who comes from out of state and has figured out the Florida real estate market pretty quickly. You've got to tip your hat to him. I mean, it's a pretty short time that he's been here, and he's done exceptionally well in a fairly short period of time. And he continues to do pretty well in even this COVID-stained market. Stephen, Byron was a great guest. Where can our listeners find other great guests to listen to?
The place to go is our website, www.investfloridashow.com. Also, download the app so that you can listen to it on your mobile device when you're in the gym or just outside having fun.
Guys, as always, we appreciate the time that you invest with us each and every episode. And until next time, hasta la vista.
You've just listened to the Invest Florida podcast with Eric Odum and Stephen Silverman. Join us every week for actionable real estate investment ideas, and of course, visit our website at www.investfloridashow.com for more shows and tips on how to earn a cash flow in the real estate market in Florida. While hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show have no reason to doubt the validity of comments of our guests, we do not warranty their accuracy. Please check with your legal, financial, and tax advisors before entering into any investment. Returns will vary from person to person and deal to deal based on unique circumstances. All information expressed in this show is for educational purposes only. Opinions of the guests are not necessarily shared by the hosts and producers of the Invest Florida show.